Good morning. Today I will be teaching a topic on static stability of the glenohumeral joint. So I am going to discuss only 3 points in this topic, that is the factors which is responsible to maintain the static stability of the glenohumeral joint. So there are 3 factors are there which is responsible to maintain the stability of the joint. First is passive tension in rotator interval capsule. First reason, that is first factor is passive tension in rotator interval capsule, and second is negative intra-articular pressure, and third one is inclination of the glenoid cavity. Clear? So these are the 3 factors. So we will be discussing one by one. First is passive tension in the rotator interval capsule. So what is rotator interval capsule? So for this you should know what is rotator interval first. Rotator interval, imagine this is the humerus, and this is the attachment of subscapularis muscle. That is, this is anterior and this is posterior. This is subscapularis muscle. This is supraspinatus, infraspinatus and teres minor. Clear? So the gap between the subscapularis muscle, the gap between the subscapularis muscle and supraspinatus tendon, that is attachment, is called as the rotator interval. So what is rotator interval capsule? Rotator interval capsule are the structures which is present in this interval. Rotator interval capsules are the structures which are present within the rotator interval. So what are those structures? 3 structures are glenohumeral ligament, and second one is coracohumeral ligament, and third one is superior capsule, superior joint capsule of the glenohumeral joint. So these 3 structures together it is called as rotator interval capsule. So what we have discussed, the 3 factors which maintains the joint stability, static stability, not dynamic stability. Dynamic stability we will discuss next class. So first is tension in rotator interval capsule. This we discussed. There are 3 structures are there. So first we will discuss the first point. Clear? So normally when the shoulder is in dependent position, you know the glenohumeral joint is an incongruent joint. So incongruent joint, what is incongruent joint? Which the incongruent joint means it provides the more stability, greater stability and lesser stability and greater mobility. In incongruent joint, you know the shoulder glenohumeral joint and hip joint is opposite. Clear? The glenohumeral joint, it has more mobility and less stability because the joint is incongruent, and the hip joint, if you take, it is more stable and it is less mobile. Clear? So in this glenohumeral joint, because the joint is an incongruent joint, the bony stability alone is not enough to maintain the static stability of the glenohumeral joint. So some other forces is required to maintain the static stability. So that we are going to discuss. So in the dependent position, static dependent position of the upper extremity, the gravity of the humerus, it acts in the downward direction. The gravity, it acts in the downward direction along the long axis of the humerus. Clear? So this is one force acting in this direction. So other force, so here I had written SCS, that is superior capsular structure. In some book it is mentioned superior capsular structure, and some other book it is mentioned RIC. RIC means rotatory interval capsule. Both are almost same. So which includes three structures. I've already told you: superior joint capsule, glenohumeral ligament, and corpohumeral ligament. So this force is acting in this direction. Clear? Clear. So the line of gravity is acting on this direction. The line of gravity is acting on this direction, and the tension in the superior capsular structure, or the tension in that is passive tension. Passive tension in the rotator interval capsule is acting in this direction. So what happens? The resultant force is generated. The resultant force is acting in this direction, that is towards the glenoid cavity. Okay. Gravity is acting in this direction. The passive tension. What is passive tension? There are two types of forces or tensions are there. Whenever in the dependent position, the superior capsular structures are the RIC. They are in the stretched position. Clear? Because of the weight of the humerus, these three structures are in stretched position. So whenever these structures are stressed or stretched, it creates a tension called passive tension. So this tension is acting in this direction. Now this force is acting in this direction. When you take these two forces into consideration, that is force of RIC and LOG. When you take these two forces into consideration, a resultant force is produced, and that resultant force is called as a compression force. Clear? So this compression force is towards the glenoid cavity. So this compression force, it helps in maintaining the static stability of the glenohumeral joint. So this is first reason, or first factor which is responsible to maintain the static stability of the glenohumeral joint. And the second is, and one more point I would like to say here. So what we have discussed, this is in the non-unloaded position. That is, if you are not having any load in your upper extremity, then the force is acting in this direction. So normally we may think that because the line of gravity is acting in this direction, so some other force is required. Other force is required to maintain the equilibrium. So we think that some other force is required to act in the upward direction. And what are the forces which are acting in upward direction? The muscles, that is, which is crossing the glenohumeral joint, like a deltoid muscle, clear? Deltoid and biceps, long head of biceps brachii, and supraspinatus muscle, and long head of triceps, biceps and triceps. So these are the muscles which are acting. The force generated by these muscles, they act in opposite direction, that is opposite to the gravity. So normally there is no electrical activity. The studies shows that there is no electrical independent position, unloaded position. There is no electrical activities in these muscles. Clear? Which means there is no active force when the arm is in dependent position. So active force is not generated. The passive tension which is generated by the RIC is enough to maintain the static stability of the glenohumeral joint. So next is, if we take the loaded extremity, suppose if you are carrying a weight in your hand, clear? Then what happens? If you are carrying the weight or load in your hand, then the passive tension generated with this muscle, with this structure, again I will repeat, if the arm is unloaded, then the passive tension generated by this RIC Clear? Passive tension in RIC is enough to maintain the static stability of the glenohumeral joint. Second condition is, if you are holding a weight in your arm, if you are carrying a weight in your extremity, then the passive tension in the RIC is not enough to maintain the static stability of the glenohumeral joint. Clear? Unloaded arm, the tension in the RIC is enough. In loaded arm, the tension in the RIC is not enough to maintain the static stability. So now what happens? The muscles, the tension in the muscle is required to maintain the static stability. So what is the muscle? You know, we may think that muscle in shoulder joint, the muscle, it does not directly attaches with the humerus. Clear? The muscle, it blends with the joint capsule. Clear? Suppose you take, this is a humerus lateral view, and this is supraspinatus muscle. Clear? Supraspinatus muscle, you know, it is attached with the in the greater tubercle, upper impression of the greater tubercle. So it inserts, first it blends. This is joint capsule, and first the glenohumeral joint is covered with the capsule, and this muscle, it blends with the glenohumeral joint capsule, and then it is attached to the bone. Clear? So the muscle, it does not have direct attachment to the bone. It blends with the capsule and it blends with the RIC, that is, it blends with the RIC and then it is inserted into the bone. So what happens if you are carrying the weight in your upper extremity? Clear? So because of the weight, the supraspinatus muscle, it is stretched. Because of the weight load in the arm, the supraspinatus muscle is stretched. I have already told, whenever the muscle or the contractile or non-contractile unit is stretching, it creates a passive tension, or it creates a passive force. So when you carry the load in your arm, the supraspinatus muscle is stretched, and this stretch or this tension, the tension of this muscle, it is transmitted to the RIC. Clear? So I have already told, the muscle, it does not attaches directly to the bone. It blends with the RIC. It blends with the, what is RIC? Rotator interval capsule. Rotator interval capsule there are three factors: glenohumeral ligament, coracohumeral ligament, and the superior joint capsule. So the supraspinatus muscle, it blends with all these three structures and then it gets inserted into the greater tubercle. So what happens when this muscle is stretched? When the supraspinatus muscle is stretched, the tension, passive tension is created in the supraspinatus muscle, and those tension are transmitted to the RIC, and now this tension is required to maintain the static stability of the glenohumeral joint. So what is the conclusion from this point is, when the load on the arm is unloaded, the tension in the RIC is enough to maintain the static stability of the glenohumeral joint. When the arm is loaded, then the supraspinatus muscle is stretched and passive tension is produced within the muscle, and those tensions are transmitted to the RIC. Now this force is required to maintain the static stability of the glenohumeral joint. So now if for example, if we take an example with supraspinatus muscle paralysis, okay, if the supraspinatus muscles are paralyzed, for example, so what will happen if the supraspinatus muscle is paralyzed and if you are carrying the load in your arm, the passive tension in the supraspinatus muscle cannot be produced, and now the force or the tension, passive tension created in the RIC is not enough to maintain the static stability. So now what will happen? The RIC or the rotator interval capsule has to stretch more. Clear? If these structures are stretched more, then plasticity is developed within these structures. So which results in the instability of the shoulder joint. So gradually what will happen? There will be inferior migration or translation of the glenohumeral joint. This occurs because the loaded arm requires more stability, and this stability is provided by the additional structure, that is supraspinatus muscle, and this cannot be produced when the muscle is paralyzed. So this is about the first point. So tension in the superior capsular structure or tension in the RIC. Now second point. Second point is negative intra-articular pressure. Clear? So negative intra-articular pressure, it also maintains the static stability of the glenohumeral joint. So what is negative intra-articular pressure? Normally in the capsule, you know, the glenohumeral joint is covered by the capsule, superior capsule, superiorly, anteriorly, posteriorly and inferiorly. It is covered by the capsule. Clear? So this capsule, it is sealed in all the direction. The glenohumeral joint capsule is sealed in all the direction. So which creates a negative pressure within the joint. Clear? Or the vacuum is produced within the joint. So when due to gravity, if the glenohumeral joint, it goes, suppose if it is acting in downward direction, so what will happen? This negative pressure which is present within the joint, it prevents or it resists the downward glide of the humerus at the glenohumeral joint, because the joint is having negative pressure, vacuum pressure. Because of that vacuum pressure, when the head of the humerus, when it tries to go down or when it tries to slide down, the vacuum pressure will try to resist the downward movement of the humerus. So this is another factor which is maintaining the stability of the glenohumeral joint. And suppose if there is any damage, if there is any injury to the joint capsule, or if there is any injury to the glenoid labrum, then what will happen? This negative pressure is lost. Clear? If this negative pressure within the joint capsule is lost, vacuum pressure is lost. If this is lost, then what will happen? It will allow the humerus to slide inferiorly. So it will result in downward or subluxation of the glenohumeral joint in the inferior direction. So this is about the second point, negative intra-articular pressure. And third point what we discussed, third point is the inclination of the glenoid fossa. So before going to this point, I would like to brief about the mobilizers and stabilizers of the shoulder joint. Stabilizers and mobilizers of the shoulder joint. So there are two groups of any of the shoulder joint muscles. They fall under two categories. One is stabilizers, another is the mobilizers. Clear? What is stabilizers? Stabilizers means the muscles which originates from the cranium, spine, and the ribs, and insertion should be in clavicle or scapula. Clear? So these muscles are called as stabilizers. Stabilizers are the muscles which gets originated from either cranium, vertebrae or the spines or the ribs. The example is, there are many examples, upper trapezius, levator scapula and serratus anterior. So these are the muscles which gets originated in either one of this, and insertion is in clavicle and scapula. And what is mobilizers? Mobilizers are the muscles which is origin is from clavicle, or scapula, and insertion is in the humerus or forearm, bones of the forearm. So this is origin and this is insertion. So these muscles are called as mobilizers. Example is deltoid. Deltoid is one of the examples of mobilizers. Normally when you are doing any activities of the shoulder joint, there should be an interaction between these stabilizers and mobilizers. So I will discuss these topics detail in dynamic stabilization of the shoulder joint. Just I would like to give an introduction about the stabilizers and mobilizers. So mobilizers, that is deltoid, clear? So what I have told, for the normal functioning of the shoulder joint, there should be an interaction between the stabilizers and the mobilizers. So for the deltoid muscle to function properly, or for the deltoid muscle to generate its torque, for the maximum torque production in the deltoid, it requires the activation of the stabilizers. So if and here, so what are these stabilizers? Why we are discussing this under this third point? In third point, so what is the third point? So what is first point? A passive tension in rotator interval capsule, and second is negative intra-articular pressure, and third one is inclination of glenoid fossa. Here we are discussing now inclination of glenoid fossa. So here there is an you should know about the optimal posture of the scapulothoracic joint. So what is the optimal posture of the scapula? If you take this as the scapula, clear, the muscles which are attached to the acromion process, and this is you can take an example, upper trapezius, and this is the muscles which is attached to the medial border. This is levator scapula, this is upper trapezius, and you know the serratus anterior, it takes origin in the ribs, and it takes origin in the ribs and it is attached to the medial border of the scapula. Clear? So this is serratus anterior. Clear? So these are the stabilizers we have already discussed. Clear? Stabilizers are the muscles. Okay. Upper trapezius, levator scapulae, and serratus anterior. So these muscle normally it maintains. These are called as stabilizers. So this muscle it maintains the scapula in the optimal posture. So what is optimal posture of the scapula? Optimal posture of the scapula is suppose if you take this as a right scapula, my right scapula, clear? Scapula is slightly elevated. Scapula is slightly, I'll show here. Scapula is slightly elevated and it is retracted. Scapula is slightly retracted. Clear? That is retracted. Scapula is retracted and it is upward rotated. So 3 points you should remember. Scapula is elevated and it is retracted, and third one is upward rotation. This is right side scapula. Clear? This is right scapula. Upward rotation. So this posture of the scapula is called as an ideal posture of the scapula. In ideal posture, the upper trapezius muscle, it has a good leverage because it is attached to the lateral part of the acromion. So it has a good leverage in maintaining the scapulothoracic posture. Clear? If this, so what will be the position of the glenoid cavity? What will be the position of the glenoid cavity in optimal posture of the scapula? In optimal posture, what happens? In optimal posture, the glenoid cavity, it faces slightly upward. Clear? In optimal posture, because the scapula is elevated, glenoid cavity is lateral side, towards this side. Clear? Scapula is elevated and it is retracted and it is slightly upward rotated. In upward rotation, what happens? The glenoid cavity is it faces slightly in the upward direction. So this scapular posture itself provides a bony stability to the glenohumeral joint. That is this point. Clear? It provides bony stability to the glenohumeral joint in optimal posture. So here I'll explain with this diagram. So here if you see, this is scapula, clear, and this is optimal posture. Optimal posture. So optimal posture of the scapula is maintained by the shoulder stabilizers. Clear? So this is upper trapezius. You can take this muscle as an upper trapezius. So upper trapezius, it helps to elevate or it to externally rotate the scapula. Clear? So what will happen? You can see this glenoid cavity is facing upwards. Clear? And what is this SCS? SCS I have already told. Rotator interval capsule, RIC. Both are same as I have already told, RIC and SCS. SCS means superior capsular structure and RIC means rotator interval capsule. Both are same. Clear? So this is RIC, which includes passive tension of glenohumeral ligament, coracohumeral ligament, and third one is superior capsule, superior glenohumeral capsule. Clear? So this is RIC. This is passive tension and upper trapezius. So gravity is acting in this direction. So in optimal posture, listen carefully. In optimal posture, the line of gravity, this is of this image. In optimal posture of the scapulothoracic joint, the line of gravity is opposed by two forces. One is RIC, clear, is opposed by two forces. One is RIC and other is the upper trapezius, that is stabilizers. So if now here you see what happens to the angle. Clear? The angle is less. Clear? You can see the diagram here. One force is acting in this direction, other force is acting in downward direction. This is LOG, line of gravity, and this force is combined force of both the superior capsular structure and upper trapezius. Clear? Or the stabilizers. Now a resultant force is produced in this direction. The resultant force is produced in this direction. Clear? You see the angle is less. Now if you take an example, second example, imagine there is a weakness or the paralysis of the upper trapezius or the paralysis of any of the stabilizers. Not paralysis, even weakness of the stabilizers. What happens? The optimal posture of the scapula now is not maintained. You see the direction of the glenoid fossa here is lateral. Okay. Here it is facing upward. Here it is facing laterally. Why? Because the stabilizers are weak or it is paralyzed. Now what happens? The previously two forces are opposing. Here one force is RIC and other force is stabilizers. Two forces are acting in optimal posture. Or in other words, the line of gravity is opposed by two different forces, force A and B. In the second diagram, because optimal posture is lost due to paralysis of the upper trapezius or any weakness of the stabilizers, now the gravity is acted or opposed by only one forces, that is the force A. So what is force A? Force A is the tension, passive tension in the RIC. So now there is no force, other forces acting. So what will happen in this case? The angle is changed. Clear? The angle is changed. I'll explain, I'll be more specific still here. Clear? See, imagine one force, RIC is forces acting in this direction, and the stabilizers is acting in, the stabilizers are acting in this direction. Clear? And this is line of gravity. When you take these two forces into consideration, or when you take the resultant force of this A and B, the force will be somewhere in this direction. Clear? So this is the angle. Clear? So what happened? These two forces will create the force, third force, which is called compression force. And this compression force is towards the glenoid cavity. This is in optimal posture. Now coming to second diagram, this is line of gravity and the force A is still present. Clear? The force A is still present, and because there is no force B, because here the force B is absent. So now what happened? The resultant force is, there is no resultant force, only single force is acting in this direction. Now what happens here? The angle now it is increased. Clear? You can see here, previously the angle was this much, and here because there is absence of this force, there is no resultant force, and the angle is increased here. Clear? When the angle is increased, the compression force vector is reduced. Clear? Here the force vector is less. Force vector is less. Here you see the length of the vector is greater. Clear? Because the force is, angle is less, because the angle is less, force, compression force will be greater. Here the angle is increased. Clear? Angle is increased, so the compression force is reduced. So what does it mean? If the stabilizer muscles are paralyzed or if the stabilizer muscles are weak, then what will happen? The compression force which is stabilizing the glenohumeral joint is now reduced. Clear? And what is second point? Second point is, now previously two forces are opposing the line of gravity. Now only one force is acting against the line of gravity. So the plasticity develops in the RIC, which already we discussed. If plasticity is developed, then there will be an irreversible subluxation of the glenohumeral joint, because now the line of gravity will act more. Because upward force is reduced, the line of gravity will act more, and compression force is also less, and the direction of the scapula is also lateral. That is, glenoid cavity is lateral. It is not maintained in optimal posture. All these factors will result in downward subluxation, inferior subluxation of the joint. So this is what it happens. If you see the hemiplegic patient, a patient with a hemiplegia, they may end up with the inferior subluxation of the glenohumeral joint. So this is the reason. Clear? Because in the hemiplegia patient, the stabilizers are weak. Clear? If the stabilizers are weak, then they could not maintain the scapula in the optimal posture. Because the optimal posture is not maintained, there is overload in the RIC, that is a rotator interval capsule, and it is stretched more. When it is stretched more, then the plasticity it develops within the structure, and it becomes, the joint become unstable or unstable. So this, it results in the downward subluxation of the glenohumeral joint, or downward subluxation of the shoulder joint. So what should be done? So that is why we give a sling, clear, a protective sling or supportive device to maintain the joint in the neutral position, or to maintain or to prevent the irreversible dislocation or subluxation, inferior subluxation of the glenohumeral joint. Last point is, I will explain one more point and I will complete my lecture. So here, if the imagine this is I will show the anterior direction. This is sternum, manubrium sternum, body and xiphoid process. This is clavicle. Clear? You know the trapezius I have already told, and these are the ribs. Clear? And this is upper trapezius, and this is anterior view, and clavicle, this is clavicle, and this is acromion. Clear? Acromion process and spinous process, which is behind it. Clear? The trapezius muscle is inserted here. Clear? The trapezius muscle is inserted here, and this is the glenoid cavity. Clear? What happens when the trapezius, the tension in the trapezius is normal? It will elevate the clavicle, and it will elevate the acromion process to maintain the ideal posture of the scapula. This we already discussed. Clear? If the muscles are paralyzed, if the trapezius muscles are still, or the stabilizer muscles are paralyzed, then what will happen? The clavicle will drop. The clavicle will drop. Normally this clavicle is kept elevated due to the tension of the upper trapezius muscle. If this upper trapezius muscles are paralyzed, then lateral clavicle will come down. Clear? Lateral clavicle will come down. This will result in the superior subluxation of the sternoclavicular joint with the leverage first rib. Clear? This point will act as a leverage, and if the clavicle is coming because of paralysis of the upper trapezius, if lateral end of the clavicle migrate inferiorly, then due to the leverage present in the first rib, then the sternoclavicular joint will migrate, or the clavicle will migrate superiorly. The clavicle will migrate superiorly, which we call it as a superior subluxation of the sternoclavicular joint. So this is about the static stability of the glenohumeral joint, and we will discuss the dynamic stability of the glenohumeral joint. We will discuss in next class. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Thank you.